Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Greetings, my friends. Great to have you here. Great to have you back. Rush Limbaugh, the most listened to radio talk show in the country, the most talked about host. Both loved, vilified, reviled, and adored. We call it perfect polarization. Perfect polarity inside baseball jargon. No. Don't try for it. Don't have to try for it. It just happens. Anyway, folks, great to have you. The telephone number, 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. I didn't think it was possible, but the GOP establishment is panicked even further. They're now just out of their gourd. And you know what? They're getting a bunch of leftists to join them in their supposed fear of what will happen to the GOP if Donald Trump gets the nomination. We have audio soundbites on this coming up. Now, one thing about this I've never understood, but I think now it's coming into focus. I have never understood, like at that now famous dinner that I had with Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham in New York, where they tried to pitch me on amnesty, the Gang of Eight bill, and I steadfastly refused. Schumer kept talking to me about the future of the Republican Party was over if they didn't join the momentum for the Gang of Eight, if they didn't try to secure the Hispanic population vote by supporting amnesty in the Gang of Eight bill. And I remember saying to Senator Schumer, do you really care that the Republican Party win the White House? I mean, that's not what you want. You'd be happy if they never won the White House. So what is this? And in this whole campaign now, we've got people, both parties, but this is the key, they all happen to be members of the establishment. They're all professing to be paranoid to one degree or another over what will become of the GOP if Trump gets a nomination. And the original question still holds. Why are all these liberals in the news media, the Democrat Party, and the pop culture, wherever you find, why are they so concerned that the GOP might fail to exist? Why are they so concerned that the GOP might be destroyed? And, of course, the answer is, given the current structure, the Democrat Party loves the GOP as it's currently constituted and as it currently operates. The GOP has practically conceded to being a second-tier party. The GOP is practically the Washington Generals to the Harlem Globetrotters. Democrat Party's the Harlem Globetrotters. The Globetrotters could not have played if they didn't have a team to beat. They couldn't have played. They wouldn't have had an act if there was no patsy on the other side. So if the GOP dwindles and fades away, the Democrat Party's got a little bit of a problem. I mean, look, it's not something they'd lose any sleep over, but one of the primary ways they survive is by pitting their opposition as evil and satanic. They need villains. And if the Republican Party fades away to non-existence, where's the villain? And in this, the two parties are almost complicit in this establishment arrangement. They both feed off of each other. And as long as the Republican Party knows its place, and that is, for the most part, losers. Now, you might say, Rush, what do you mean? They won the Senate, they won the House. Yeah, but look how they operate them. They've not done much to stop Obama, even after they won control of the House. And they certainly haven't done much to stop Obama since they won the Senate. So it's almost back to the days of Bob Michael, when the House, GOP House, was 150 members. But nevertheless, the Democrats need them there. They need a foil. They need somebody to be victim. And the Republicans in this circumstance go along with it because they get to maintain their membership in the elite. Now, one of the things that is really detrimental about all this, aside from all the obvious things, is that is there for a republic like the United States, not a democracy, although I'm not going to split hairs here, but we are a republic, or a constitutional republic. And for a republic to exist and for it to be on its continuum, And this is a fundamental reality, and it goes all the way back to Socrates, Sophocles, Plato, and all those other Greek guys who ran around speaking with pebbles in their mouths so they could improve their articulation. A republic needs respect for the opposition in order for it to survive. And that respect for the opposition is what leads to ongoing competition. And that respect for the opposition is long gone. There is no, the Democrats, the left, there is no respect for the opposition whatsoever. It's not even considered legitimate. And we've gotten to a point now where the left of the Democrat Party really, in their dreams, would love to sweep away any serious opposition, not have a level playing field, but have no playing field at all. But now when they're faced with that possibility, when they're faced with the GOP imploding, this is what they're all afraid of if Trump gets a nomination. Now they need their opponent. They need their enemy. They need somebody guaranteed and happy to come in second place. So the audio sound bites today are just incredible as the party leaders, several of them, establishment leaders, now plot plans in order to take control. They're now talking about Romney as a safety valve emergency candidate at the convention. They're talking third party. And all of this is happening precisely because they have accepted the role of Washington generals. Primarily since the election of Barack Obama. So there is that factor, and it's kind of fun to look at this and to track it, which we will do as the program unfolds. There's also, everybody is wringing their hands today over one of the sacred principles of journalism maybe being violated and just cast aside and thrown away by the New York Times. And you know what it is? The agreement between everybody involved that off the record means off the record. Yes. It's very, very dangerous out there. Very, very bad, folks, because the New York Times may be violating all of its journalistic integrity. Because of this. Apparently, Trump had an editorial board meeting with the New York Times not long ago. It was off the record. It was taped, but it was off the record. And off the record means whatever is said cannot be repeated, cannot be alluded to, cannot be confirmed without the express permission of the interviewee, in this case, Trump. Off-the-record get-togethers are important for a lot of reasons. It's one of the only ways that people suspicious of the media will talk to them. And if it's ever disrespected or violated, it causes all kinds of problems. And the New York Times thinks they're sitting on a bombshell. Apparently, and we shouldn't know this, but we do. Apparently, Trump gave them the impression in this off-the-record meeting that his claim to deport 11 million illegal immigrants and build a wall is just an opening position in a negotiation. Somebody at the New York Times referenced this interview to BuzzFeed, which is, how would you categorize BuzzFeed? BuzzFeed is like teen girl for the I don't know, but it's a specialty site, Ben Smith's place. Anyway, Smith was the guy that they leaked it to. And so Smith is out there saying that this tape exists, and Gail Collins, who's in the editorial board of the New York Times, who would have been involved in this off-the-record meeting, wrote a column, and Ben Smith at BuzzFeed, referring to the column, suggests that the second sentence that she wrote in this piece is actually a great indication of what Trump had said. This happened on Tuesday, January 5th. And Gail Collins refers to the fact that it's an opinion piece. She doesn't refer to the tape. She doesn't refer to the interview with Trump. She just seems to know that with Trump, whatever he says is really nothing more than an opener in a negotiation. And from that point, negotiation takes place. And then if you read The Art of the Deal, you find out that Trump's openers are sometimes 3 times more than what he actually will settle for. So they're trying, violating the off-the-record sacred cow. They are attempting at the New York Times to leak out there that Trump is lying to his support base about the number one issue. They support him. Nobody will confirm anything. What this has led to now is everybody and their uncle calling on the New York Times to release the tape. They're calling on Trump to demand that the New York Times release the tape. They're calling on the New York Times to release it. Since we know about it now, since it's out there, it would not be fair. It would not be right to hide the contents. I want to remind you, the L.A. Times is still sitting on a video of Barack Hussein Obama and some wacko Middle East money man who is a supporter of his and underwrites terrorism. I'm having a mental block on the name. Last name Skyhook, but I think it's Khalid Rashidi or something like that. And the New York Times has been sitting on this video. Everybody knows it exists. They've been sitting on this video since the 2008 campaign. They will not release it. They claim it's not relevant. But obviously the New York Times, somebody there did not want this to be sat on. Well, it turns out that Byron York of the Washington Examiner had an interview with Trump, unbeknownst to anybody that Trump had spoken to the New York Times. And when he asks him about his negotiating position on things, and he specifically asks him, I read The Art of the Deal, Byron York says. You say that you have to be bold in negotiation, and you often say that you start out by asking 3 times what you want in order to get what you want when the negotiation is over. So, build a wall. Is that really what you talk about, or is that just your opener? And Trump answers him. He does not cave and say that he didn't mean it or any of the sort, but he does acknowledge that he does do positions, strong positions. Sometimes they're negotiating openers, sometimes they're not. Point is, I think what the Byron York interview, it happened very close to the time Trump gave his interview to the New York Times off the record. Again, that was Tuesday, January 5th. I don't think there's probably going to be any kind of a bombshell in this New York Times interview that Trump did. I think we're going to get if it ever is released, you watch. If it's ever released, it's going to be pretty close to what Trump's already told to Byron York. And he did not admit anything to Byron York. He just acknowledged, yeah, I have that negotiating position. Yeah, we started out with strong positions. And he's making a joke. Okay, maybe the wall won't be 10 feet. Maybe it'll be 8 feet. Maybe it won't be 15 feet, maybe 13. Makes jokes about it and so forth. But he does not concede that anything he said isn't true. But it is clear that anti-Trump forces everywhere are doing their best now to drive a wedge between Trump supporters and Trump because they can't figure out how else to do it. And here's the thing. They'll never figure it out until they are honest with themselves. I have spent, I don't know, I have to add up the hours, but it's many, on this program. And what I've said has been transcribed and thus published at rushlimbaugh.com, so anybody can go get it, search the website and find it. Coco could go find all these examples and link to them today if he wanted to. Every instance where I have explained this divide, what the establishment has done is doing to create this anger, to create this segment of the population that wants no part of politics as usual. I have spent hours explaining it. Justifiable reasons why people feel the way they do. It's not hard to figure this out at all, but the people in the establishment still don't get it. They still think of this as a temper tantrum that the children are going through. And this is not a temper tantrum. This is not going away. This is not a phase. And you know why? Because there's an element of this that hasn't been touched on by a lot of people. The anger at the establishment is due to a lot of things. But in addition to that, for the first time, it's about class. You take a look at the middle class in this country, so go back to the 60s. There hasn't been any significant improvement in the economic status of the middle class in many, many years. And yet the smart people, the establishment, the elites, whatever you want to call them, the special people, look at what they've done. Look at what I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Look at what's happened to the college education. College education used to be, and in many places is still thought of as what? A step up. A college education is thought of as not just, it's a requirement. If you want to better yourself, if you want to be a success, however you define it, you have to go to college. Look at what the people who run universities, and look at what the people who run institutions that fund them, look at what they've turned it into. A college education today is a millstone around people's necks. A college education is not a step up because you're going to spend your whole life repaying your loans to go. Look what else they've done to college. Look at the worthless stuff that's being taught. It's useless when applied in the real world, but the degrees are seductive to young people that touchy-feely care about things. So they go get degrees in insect and mammoth studies and come out with literally nowhere to go after spending 6 figures or more for the privilege of being there for 4 years. So the middle class, which is all the class consciousness is important in this, because not too long ago, if you were in the upper class, you didn't lord it over people. You didn't try to act like you were in a place they didn't know about, they weren't entitled to, you weren't able to understand it, and you were not persona non grata. Today, all that's different. The upper class wants nothing to do with anybody else. They openly make fun of the people who make this country work. And the people who make this country work are aware of it and know it. This is not a phase. This is not temporary. This is the end of patience, the end of faith. People in the middle class have finally figured out that the so-called betters are screwing everything up. They're not making anything better for anybody other than themselves. I have to take a break. Sit tight. We'll be back. I'm going to have a little bit more detail on this as the program unfolds. Charles Murray had a great piece in the Wall Street Journal recently. He made the point here that what's happening with the massive support Trump has, it's class-based, it's class-related, in addition to being economic and religious. And he makes, in addition to the point I made about college and how that's been destroyed, really, it's no longer a way up. It's a millstone around people's neck. But it's not just that. He cites the Iraq War, all of these things that have caused people to lose faith in the people telling them they're the only ones qualified to deal with these things. The Iraq War, the response to Hurricane Katrina, the financial crisis, that remains. You can't, if the establishment thinks that's over, the recession, the financial crisis, the TARP bailout, and then the stimulus, all of that stuff, and it's gotten worse. It hasn't improved anything. And people know it because they're living it. All this stuff was supposed to stop crises. It was supposed to stop emergencies, reverse directions. So you have the financial crisis, the stimulus, Obamacare, immigration, everything is being made a mess of. It isn't improving anything except it's satisfying the desires and the wants of the so-called ruling class. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it in class terms, and then you realize how the establishment ruling, whatever they call it, they haven't still the foggiest idea why this is going on and what it really represents. Even today, they don't. No, I don't believe that happened. I don't believe that that Obama renounced Reverend Wright. No, that's not what happened. In fact, there was pressure on Obama to renounce Reverend Wright, because Reverend Wright was all over the place. You know, the GD America, chickens that come home to roost, we deserve what happened to us 9/11. You know, all that stuff. I don't relive that, but there was pressure on Obama. He went out, he did a great, so-called great speech on race, but he didn't renounce Reverend Wright. In fact, I think what he said was he could no more renounce Reverend White than he could his white grandmother, or some such thing. Or if he did renounce it, it wasn't a full-throated disavowal of Reverend Wright. And he certainly wasn't peppered to do it 25 times in 2 days like is happening to Trump. So, no, Jeffrey Lord has a piece on that today in the American Spectator about the hypocrisy that exists here with everybody going after Trump here. Because he didn't disavow on one show. He disavows Duke everywhere but one show. And they won't let it go, and they're trying to make associations with it. And Jeffrey Lord has to be, well, look at Obama. Wouldn't renounce Reverend Wright. Nobody demanded he renounce Reverend Wright. And it's a good point. It's just like this New York Times super secret video that they've got with Trump. The L.A. Times is sitting on that video. His name is Rashid Khalidi. The tape is from a party in tribute to Khalidi. He's a PLO advisor turned University of Chicago professor who was headed to Columbia University to assume a professorship endowed in honor of Edward Said, who is a notorious terrorist apologist. And Obama attended this soiree and was seated with Khalidi at the table of honor. Bill Ayers attended. The L.A. Times has video of the whole thing, and they will not release it. They will not allude to what happens on it. Totally unlike what is happening with Trump and his New York Times thing. Here's the BuzzFeed headline. Donald Trump secretly told the New York Times what he really thinks about immigration. So you see here, readers are supposed to believe that Trump admitted to the New York Times on tape that he's been lying to his supporters all along, that he's just stringing them along. That's what they want you to believe. Now, does anybody believe that Trump is that stupid? Is he that stupid that he would actually tell the New York Times that what he's saying about deporting 11 million illegal immigrants, building a wall, is just a bunch of BS? He's not going to go tell the New York Times that. They're demanding this thing be released, and I bet you that it wouldn't be substantively different from what Trump told Byron York, who interviewed Trump about this very concept 1 week after Trump did the New York Times interview back in early January. Of course, back then, nobody knew Trump had done it. Nobody knew about this till yesterday, when somehow the New York Times forgot about journalistic integrity, and somebody there called up Ben Smith or somebody at BuzzFeed, said, did you see Gail Collins' column over? Yeah, what about? Well, I want to point out a sentence. Trump was here at an off-the-record meeting with the editorial board. I think Gail's alluded to it here. Ben, you might want to, and bammo, we're off to the races. And it's the latest in flailing efforts made by people scared to death of Trump to try to separate him from his supporters. And this is another thing that these people don't get. The New York Times cannot cause Trump supporters to abandon him. Paul Ryan can't make it happen. Marco Rubio can't make it happen. Ted Cruz can't make it happen. Nobody is. And I'll tell you, there's two reasons why. Well, the first is that only Trump can damage himself. It's the old philosophy. None of these people made Trump. The New York Times didn't make Trump. All these other establishment types, Trump's not where he is because he's been heralded and promoted and had a lot of buzz. Trump built this relationship with his supporters himself. He's the only one that can tear it asunder. But there's a second, more important reason. Trump's supporters are not going to abandon him. They're not going to let go of him because of what he represents. In one sense, he's a vessel. He is the only, after repeated efforts, he's the only possibility of wresting control of the country back from the upper class that has seized it and at the same time has stopped working for all Americans. Trump, that's what Trump represents here. And a lot of people who think this is a personality cult also misunderstand what's going on here. And at the root of this misunderstanding, and do not doubt me on this, is the arrogant condescension that the ruling class has for average, ordinary Americans. That's the root of this misunderstanding. Not hard to understand when it's explained to you. You know, we hear terms like flyover country thrown around. But, you know, after a while, the people that live in flyover country, they begin to understand what it really means. It's a put down. It's not just a joke. It's an actual put down. It's the part of the country you don't want to live. It's the part of the country you don't want to be in except unless it's an accident. I read a story yesterday by Clive Cook, and I think he's a Brit. He tells the story of a friend of his from the UK who has lived in Washington for a while, grew up in London and Cambridge or Oxford, and in the 70s, and said, you know, there was all kinds of class distinctions in the UK then, but the upper classes didn't sneer, and they weren't exclusionary, and they didn't laud their exalted status over everybody else. They got along, the class lines were drawn, and everybody knew it, but there was no sneering from top down. There wasn't any arrogant condescension. So this guy announces to his friends in Washington he's going to buy a house in West Virginia. And they immediately think he's lost his mind. What, you mean you're going to go live next to people that strum a banjo on the front porch? Don't have any teeth? You're going to hang around with a bunch of people that pull shotgun triggers all day long while yelling about pro-life? And he said he had never seen anything like it. These were good people, friends of his in Washington, who had this instinctive, insulting, sneering attitude about people they don't know who live in West Virginia, and the attitudes they had about them were based only on the fact that they did not live in Washington. They live in West Virginia. So the guy goes, builds his house, buys his house, whatever, meets his friends in West Virginia, and they're wonderful people. They're fine and dandy people, and they're, of course, nothing like what his Washington buddies described. And his point is that this sneering condescension is something that people in the middle class, both lower, middle, and upper middle class, are fully aware of. They're fully aware of this condescension toward them. And these special people in the elite ruling class who've been in charge of everything, who think they're the smart ones, they're the best and brightest, they've got the best ideas to do best things for the country, and all they're doing is making a mess of things, like screwing up a college education, screwing up the American financial system, bailouts, stimulus that don't work, that don't help anybody except the people that made the mess in the first place. They're fundamentally fully aware of all this. Then you add to that the cultural rot. People of certain religions are being mocked and laughed at and made fun of and are openly being told they are the problem. Things are happening in neighborhoods and businesses that 10 years ago were unthinkable. They think they voted for people sympathetic, trying to stop it. Nothing stops it. It only gets worse. So these people are fundamentally devoted to an overthrow and an upheaval. I hesitate to use the word revolution, but my point here is that this is not just about Trump. And by the way, for you Trumpists, this is not a Trump put down, please. You can check your sensitivity at the door here when you turn on the program. I'm not suggesting your devotion to Trump is fine and dandy. I'm saying that your issues, the things that have you animated, you cannot be separated from Trump because the issues are even bigger than Trump is. Trump's the best opportunity that you've had, that these people have had, to fix what they think needs to be fixed, that other people have broken. And they're sick and tired of being told that people better than them, higher on the class structure ladder, they're the ones that should be in charge of. No, they're the ones that have made the biggest messes. They're the ones that screwed everything up, and in the process, they've taken care of themselves. They're not facing any of these other dire consequences that everybody else in the country is. This is real. It's not a tantrum. It's not a phase. And all of these efforts to separate Trump supporters from Trump isn't going to happen. The only guy that can do that is Trump. And he'd have to work pretty hard at it if he even wanted to. I mean, I don't think that's even a possibility. But this is so much bigger than just, it's not a personality cult thing. We got to have Trump because they're devoted to Trump. in a hero worship, since it's what Trump represents. It's the opportunity. It's the voice that they haven't had. It's the voice they haven't been listened to. It's the voice that they've been shouting, but nobody's been doing anything but making fun of them for speaking. It's perfectly understandable. But if you're in the ruling class, the establishment, part of the elites or whatever, and you can't get past your arrogant condescension of the people supporting Trump or any other candidate that's not your chosen, if you can't get past why they exist and who they are, you're never going to understand this, and you're never going to be able to do anything about it. And I have as evidence Tom Brokaw. Now, here's Brokaw. Brokaw wrote a book called The Greatest Generation. And to this day, I think he got the idea from it in this program. But I don't want to go any further. It was a great book with a great premise about the World War II generation. But Brokaw was on the Today Show today on NBC. And he was talking to Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie. And they were all wringing their hands about angry America and what's to blame for it. Who's responsible? What is all this anger? Why are people so angry? What does it mean, Tom? And you know what Tom said? Intractable GOP opposition to Obama is to blame for angry America. Now, folks, you couldn't be more wrong about that if you set out to try. But Tom Brokaw exemplifies the thinking here in the so-called establishment. The anger, intractable Republican opposition is to blame for angry. So, according to Brokaw, the anger out there is that people ticked off that the Republicans, I guess, are not working with Obama, and the people want Washington to work, and they want people to cooperate, and they want there to be compromise, and they want Washington to get along. He doesn't even know who's mad. If he doesn't even know who's mad and why, this is so cliched to think the anger is people ticked off the Republicans are causing gridlock. There isn't any gridlock. The Republicans have been getting along just fine with the Democrats. The Republicans have been making it a point not to stop Obama, not to oppose Obama. Can't get anywhere near a government shutdown. Whatever Obama wants in the budget, he gets that and more. There isn't any lack of working together. There's too much. I mean, but this illustrates how clueless these people who live in their cocoon really are about the attitudes of the American voter. Did you see the story out of Massachusetts? The Democrats there woke up one day, found 20,000 Democrats have registered Republican. A modified Operation Chaos. Why did they do this? Massachusetts. 20,000 Democrats re-registered as Republicans. They want to vote Republican. They're not trying to sabotage the Republican side. They want to vote Republican. And the Democrats in Massachusetts are worried stiff over this. All right, let me grab a quick phone call here. Choose a... Well, that's good. I was gonna go to number 4, whether you told me to go there or not. So there's a Patrick in Cleveland. Hello, sir. You're up first today, and it's really great to have you with us. Hi.
Thanks, Rush. Honor. A 24-year member of the Institute of Conservative Studies, except I'm feeling that I'm going to have to resign my position, Rush. I've been listening to you, again, for 24 years, listening to you for the last couple months, and I'm tired of hearing that any criticism of Trump always has to be framed as if it's the establishment against Trump. There are plenty of us out here who are true conservatives who are not buying the Trump bandwagon, and we're getting tired of being lumped into the establishment. What have you said for the last 10 or 15 years about people in this country not knowing what a conservative is because we haven't had a true conservative running since maybe Reagan? Okay?
Well, exactly. They haven't even had a chance to vote for a genuine conservative.
Exactly. So here we go. We're coming out of 7 years of Obama socialism, and we have a golden opportunity to showcase what a true conservative would be in contrast to that. And what are we doing? We're on the verge of nominating a con artist who is flip-flops on everything. He never answers a question. All he ever does is deflect and attack. The whole New York Times thing is a perfect example of that. And we're going to blow it. We're definitely going to blow it. And if he gets in or Hillary gets in, what's the freaking difference? I mean, it's the same thing.
Well, now that happens to be an excellent question, but before I answer that, I need to tell you that I am not lumping you or me, mainstream conservatives. You say you oppose Trump with the establishment. I'm reacting to the news of the day. I'm just, look at this as the nightly news at noon.
Well, I understand that.
The news of the day is the establishment is going bonkers even more so than ever. I'm just trying to explain it. And I've got, we went back and actually checked my website for all the attempts that I have made in the last number of years, starting back 2010, to explain to the establishment why something like this was going to happen.
And now, I understand that. And believe me, I am no fan of the establishment whatsoever. I understand perfectly why this is happening.
I understand.
I mean, you kind of touched on it with the Brokaw thing, where Brokaw said, well, it's because they're not working with Obama.
Hey,
and
now,
I
hang
agree
on.
with you. That's
hold it right there. I hope you can hold on, because I've reached the moment where I can't let the brake float. I've got to take it now. But I hope you can hold on. We'll pick it up here in the next hour as soon as we can. Okay, Patrick is going to hold on, and we're going to bust the programming format. We're going to resume the call with him right when the next hour monologue segment begins. There are a lot of people, a lot of reactions, and you know what? I have my reactions to you people too. I mean, I'm not just sitting here you're not the only ones out there getting mad. You think I don't get mad at you? Well, I mean, I'm not supposed to, but sometimes I do. I'm just wait and see what I mean. And welcome back, folks. You're right here at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, and nobody's leaving. Nobody's getting kicked out. And nobody's leaving on their own. There's no reason to. Great to have you back. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Did Patrick hold on? All right, good. We go back to Patrick in Cleveland. If you're just joining us, the first hour of the program I recapped with some additions, things I've not mentioned before theoretically, to explain the Trump phenomenon, but more than that, to explain how the establishment doesn't get it. They don't understand what's hit them. They're way off base. They're not even close to understanding it, and as such, they're never going to be able to figure it out, and how this is not a phase, it's not a temporary tantrum. It represents something that's very real and has actually been building for decades. And Patrick here is a multiple-year, 20-plus year listener to the program who called and said he doesn't like being lumped in with the establishment for reasons of disliking Trump. He dislikes Trump for different reasons, he doesn't like being lumped in with the establishment. And he's basically a full-fledged conservative and thinks the solution to these problems we have is conservatism and not Trump, that Trump is an absolute disaster. And I'm just going to assume you think, correct? Feel free to, don't misunderstand the tone of my voice. Feel free to tell me that I'm wrong about this, but I'm guessing that because of the way I explained this in the first hour, you think I've thrown in with the Trumpists.
I'm not necessarily thrown in, but it seems to me over the last couple months that you give him a pass on stuff that you would never give a pass to anybody else.
Do you know what? You don't even know what happened to me yesterday. The Trumpists want to burn me at the stake after yesterday's program. The Trumpists, the alt-right, whatever you want to call them, they were ready to bury me yesterday and last night over what happened on this program yesterday.
Understand, but
well then, here's the problem. This is what happens when you don't endorse anybody. You end up. It would be worse if I did, but by not endorsing anybody, everybody holds out hope, and it's really tense out there right now. And I understand that clear as a bell. Let me ask you. Let me go at this way, Patrick.
Okay.
Let's deal with the reality of something here. There is. Do you agree with my analysis of the sentiment out there with the people angry at Washington and so forth? Do you agree?
Oh, sure, definitely, and I consider myself one of them.
Okay, here's the question. All right, well, then how come it is? Explain to me, and I know it's a question coming at you pretty quickly. You may really want some more time to think about it, but where did conservatives not capture this sentiment? Why was it left open for somebody that has never been in politics before to come in here and to totally captivate this segment of the population, which by and large ought to be with us 100%?
Are you referring to normal conservatives who are buying the Trump line?
I'm talking about everybody ticked off at Washington. We are the answer.
Well,
we are the answer to what's wrong with.
You're right that the reason we're ticked off at Washington is because we've had 2 out of the 3 landslide elections, and we sent majorities to both Congress, both parts of the Congress, and they did absolutely nothing. They failed in their promise to take care of to halt Obama, and I can understand that's where the anger comes from. But the question becomes, what is the solution?
No, wait. I don't think I obviously didn't explain my question, frame it properly. You have what's gone on in Washington in the last 7 years, what's gone on in the last 27 years, okay? The opposition, what's gone on there is full-fledged, unabashed liberalism that has been unchecked and unstopped by the Republican Party, which has made it clear it's not conservative and doesn't want to be.
True.
So the question is, with this many millions of people angry, upset, disaffected, feeling left out, whatever, at both parties in Washington, why wasn't conservatism turned to by these people instead of Trump?
Because they haven't had a conservative candidate.
But there's been plenty of conservatism out there. We've got.
It hasn't manifested itself in the people we're sending.
We do. We've got Ted Cruz.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, we've got Ted Cruz, but before that, we've had other candidates that have run. And then some of them sought the Republican presidential primary, didn't get very far. But I know your point that we haven't really had a legitimate conservative candidate. Why is that?
You know what? I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that because, and it's not for lack of trying.
See, I think the answer to that is part of this problem. The only stated, now follow me on this before you react, the only stated opposition to Obama and Obamaism and the Democrat Party has come from us.
True.
From conservatism, from conservatives, here on this program, other talk radio, blogs, wherever. The conservative movement has a lot of moving parts. It has candidates. It has think tanks. It has media. Many of these people have been asking these Americans to support them with donations, contributions. The come on has been, help us do our work and we will convert Washington to conservatism. We are the way to get to policymakers to infuse what they do with conservative beliefs. People have been sending them money. People have been supporting them. People have been voting. They've been going on their seminars and whatever. And I think a point was reached where they said, where is all this conservatism that we've been supporting? Where is it? It hasn't shown up in the Republican Party.
I understand that. I mean, and we feel betrayed because we sent them to Washington to do a job and they didn't do it. The point I'm trying to make is that anger focused on the part that, the job's not being done. How is Donald Trump going to do that? How is Donald Trump not going to be any different when he's already said he's going to go to Washington and he's going to make deals?
Okay, I
can negotiate with Harry Reid. I can negotiate with Nancy Pelosi. If we wanted somebody to negotiate and get along, we would have elected Democrats. I heard somebody say that one time.
Wait. No. This is important now. This is why, I say sometimes I get mad too. I put in a lot of time here. Working, I did nothing all night but work on this very stuff that we're talking about. I was 7 hours last night. And sometimes it gets very frustrating when I say it over and over and still am not heard. Now, let me explain this once again. You can talk about what you just said, that Trump supporters ought to see, my God, he's going to negotiate with Pelosi and Reid. That's not how they hear it. Patrick, they hear Trump say he's going to beat them. He's going to cream them. He's going to cream Pelosi. He's going to cream Reid. Whether he does it, that's what they hear. They hear he's going to cream the Chinese. He's going to cream the Japanese. He's going to clean up the border. He may have to do deals with these people, but he's not going to cave to them. That's how they hear it, because that's what they want to believe.
I understand that, but
okay.
Again, but where's the reality involved? Where's to go back 20, 30 years? Where's the beef?
Okay,
I can make speeches like that all day.
I can answer.
I'm going to know what the hell I'm doing when I get there. I'm going to not work in my own best interest once I get there.
I can answer every question you say. Where's the beef? Again, what are we talking about, Patrick? We're talking about why people are supporting Trump and not Cruz when we boil this down, are we not? Why are people supporting Trump and not another conservative, aren't we? So those are the people we're talking about.
I would think so, yeah.
Okay, so when you ask these questions, where's the beef? They look at everybody in Washington as part of the guilty, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or not. They see Ted Cruz versus Hillary Clinton as no different than Marco Rubio versus Hillary Clinton or Mitt Romney versus Hillary Clinton, because Cruz...
Well, if that's the case, then I guess we could agree that low-information voters don't just exist on the left. Because anybody who's going to lump Cruz in with those other people are not paying attention.
Well, they think they are, but it's the reason that can happen. Like you and I both know that Cruz is a bigger outsider than even Trump. We know that
exactly.
For all that Trump has talked about, Cruz is done.
Exactly.
Okay, but yet Cruz happened to have the misfortune of getting elected. He is a senator. He is in Washington. He is seen by these people as part of the quote-unquote ruling class or establishment that has routinely sold them out, talked big, sounded great, but when it got down to brass tacks, they caved. It's totally unfair. But and by the way, this is not my theory. I read that. I talked about all the stuff I did last night. I can't remember. It was either Angela Codevilla or Charles Murray who made that observation. Because Codevilla, for example, is really worried. Angela Codevilla, who wrote the original piece on the ruling class, country class that we highlighted here in the American Spectator, his main concern is that we're just trading an Obama for a Trump.
I agree.
One authoritarian for another. And
right. I mean, I see no difference between Hope and Change and Make America Great Again, because neither of them are saying anything.
Well, yeah, but they do say a lot to they allow the supporter to define it him or herself.
Well, sure, but in the same. But my point is, we made fun of the Hope and Changer people for the last 8 years, and all we're doing is replacing it with just another empty slogan.
Well, but I would argue that Hope and Change is nebulous. Make America Great. That's pretty simple. That's not very ambiguous. Making America Great. Make America isn't great anymore. It's not great. It's not what it used to be. It's undergoing a major transformation.
Well, sure, yeah, I understand that.
Make America Great has a substantive, real meaning to it. Anyway,
I hope.
Codevilla's point is that he worries that you don't fix the mess that we're in now by electing somebody who may be better at doing exactly what Obama does than Obama is, an authoritarian versus an authoritarian. That's his fear. He's your school that what we really need here is some just solid, straight down the middle, good old-fashioned conservatism is the only stopgap and cure for this.
I agree.
There are opinions on this all over the place, and I amalgamate them here and share them with everybody. Sometimes it's assumed they're my own if I don't quote what I'm reading every other sentence from somebody. But I think the real question here is you've got this number of disaffected people. It seems to be pretty big. And speaking to you as a conservative, I'm frustrated too. How did we miss them? Why in the world do they not trust us? How many times have you heard me lament that we have done a lousy job in ideological education? You all, I am more frustrated than you are, but probably I can't complain about it. It's uncool. Like you should have seen Snerdley at the end of the previous hour when I said, I'm mad at you people. You can't say that. You can't say you're supposed to take it, but you can't give it up. I understand that. But do you realize If the people of this country just understood what liberalism is, let's go through the things that I just mentioned. Look at how the ruling class, let's change that to liberals, because that's what the hell it is. The liberals have destroyed a college education. They've turned it into a step up to an anchor around your neck. The liberals have given us the financial crisis. The liberals gave us the bailouts. The liberals gave us all of these things that have destroyed the economy while they promised it would rejuvenate the economy. Liberalism is why the culture is rotting in the midst of a transformation. But the Republican Party won't say that. The Republican Party won't even blame it on the Democrats. The Republican Party won't even acknowledge any of that's happening. But we know that it is, and so do people who are ready to abandon the entire political class for an outsider because they think the entire political class is totally corrupted. Well, it is. But it is liberalism that's corrupted it. And I wish there had been ongoing ideological education so that people knew when they saw a liberal, listen to a liberal, it automatically meant vote against them. But we're not there. I have been after that. I have been wishing that, and that's what this program is a solution to every day. This program amounts to solutions to every problem that's out there. And the first thing I do is explain and define the problem, illustrate why we have it, so forth. I'm as frustrated as anybody. This is a golden opportunity. I can tell you there's a lot of people in the conservative movement who are not really conservative, not like you and I, but they claim to be. And they are sitting out there and they're wondering, they're telling themselves, we owned this. We had the best field of candidates. All they had was Hillary, and Bernie gets in late. This was our year. We were, and then Trump gets in. And they think all is lost because they're blaming Trump for screwing up the best opportunity they've ever had. And they need to ask themselves the question, if you guys had all the answers, then why did nobody hear you? If you guys have all the answers, why did nobody listen? Why didn't anybody believe you? And that gets translated as, where is all this conservatism you guys have been talking about? Where is all this conservatism you guys have been selling? You've asked for my money. You want me to read your position papers. You want me to read your policy analysis. But where is it in my life? Where is it stopping anything? And they don't see it. So here comes Trump, just like here came Perot. And the parallels to that are interesting, too, even more so with Trump, because Perot really didn't want to win. But Trump does. Anyway, Patrick, I appreciate you holding on all this time for the top of the hour to continue the conversation. I have to take another brief obscene profit break. We'll do that and be back right after this. Don't go away. Okay, back to the phones. This is Ruben in Los Lunas, New Mexico. Hey, Ruben, how are you, sir?
Oh, Rushmo, mega dittos.
Well, thank you. Hey, Ruben, let me ask you a question. I assume here from looking at the summary that Mr. Snerdley put up that you're a Trumpster? You're a Trump supporter?
Yes, I am.
Ruben, can I ask you a real quick question?
Absolutely.
No wrong answer, not a trick. Do not misinterpret any tone that you might think you hear in my voice. I'm genuinely asking out of genuine curiosity. Are you aware of this kerfuffle that has started over the secret interview Trump gave the New York Times?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If you were to learn that Trump stated in that interview that building the wall and deporting 11 million is just an opening negotiating position and it's not what he would end up settling for, would it change your mind about supporting him?
It might change it a little bit, but not very much.
Why or why not?
Because I understand what Mr. Trump really is. He is a tool for me. He is our best chance, and he might very well be our last chance to finally take control back of our government. You know, when I talk about the establishment, I'm talking about the rhinos, I'm talking about the Democrats, and I'm talking about the liberal press. They all seem to think that it's okay and that it's their job to nominate our candidates for us. And that's just not the case. You know, this is for the people, by the people, not the other way around. You know, I don't know who elected them, I didn't elect them.
Understand that. Democrats, media have been trying to pick our candidates. Still are.
Yes, I never knew that about the Republicans, Rush. I have always known that the Democrats really don't care who you vote for, that they're going to pretty much put in who they want. But until recently, now the GOP is saying the same thing.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, here we are. There's this big giant swell going for Trump, and they're over there trying to figure out how to come up with a broker convention and put in the candidate they want instead.
Oh, so now the rhinos are joining the Democrats and trying to pick a candidate that the people...
exactly. The rhinos are just... There's no difference. We know, they used to say there was no difference between them. There's no difference between the rhinos and the Democrats. And evidently, there's no difference also between the conservative press and the liberal press, because they have joined in as well.
Now, back to my
question. That we're too ignorant, that we're not informed. You know what, Mr. Rush? I am very well informed, and yes, I am a conservative. But the reason that these conservatives aren't getting anywhere with me is if it wasn't for Donald Trump, they wouldn't even be able to get past the media.
Interesting. You are a conservative. In a normal, if Trump were not in this, would you be supporting Ted Cruz?
Absolutely. And I do support Ted Cruz. I just don't think he's capable of getting past the media. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, Ted Cruz would be under severe attack right now and practically be on his way out.
Now, that is a significant observation. That part of this is you just love the fact that Trump controls the media. Finally, for once, somebody on your team is running circles around the media.
Absolutely, and you've told us for years and years and years, you've asked the same question. Why do the Republicans let them get away with what they do?
I know. It's all my fault, yes. So that was fascinating from Ruben. By the way, did you know that Ruben sounds like he might be of Hispanic heritage? And Ruben was an admitted conservative. And Ruben said that if Trump were not in the picture, he would be supporting Ted Cruz. But then the bombshell. And by the way, since Ruben said this, it's the one thing that I'll just speak for myself. It's the one thing I know that's out there. I know this animosity toward the media, the outrage and anger at the media that is constant. And Ruben said, yeah, but even if Trump weren't there and Cruz was a nominee, the media would have already destroyed him. The media would already have him buried. But they can't do that to Trump. Trump is the one running them. Trump is controlling them. And I think, having heard Ruben say that, I think that is one of the greatest unspoken aspects of Trumpism. Not to diminish whatever aspects of it there are, but boy, is that a big part of it. People on our side feel like we don't have a prayer no matter. We can have the best candidate under the sun and he'd be destroyed by the media and the Democrat Party alliance. And there's nothing they can do about it. And Trump has come along and is getting away with whatever he wants to get away with. He's mocking them. He's laughing at them. He's threatening to sue them. He wants to open up the libel laws. All these things he can't do, by the way. I mean, that's a Supreme Court decision, New York Times versus Sullivan. Do you know what that basically is? New York Times versus Sullivan, just to analyze that for you, permits famous people to be libeled. Public figures can be, because they're public figures. The only redress is if the public figure can prove malice. That's the only, when you boil it all down, it's the only option somebody like Trump would have. He would have to, if he wanted to go out and sue these people for libel, he would have hardly any prayer. He would have to prove there was malice. And that's almost impossible to prove. You can't allow hearsay evidence in this kind of thing, and the culprits are not going to admit that they have malice. It would have to be so obvious. There was a movie, Wilford Brimley, great actor was in this movie. And I think it was Paul Newman. Yeah, Absence of Malice. Who was it? It was Sally Field in this movie. It was Paul Newman. Yeah, Paul Newman was a local businessman, was not a famous guy. Was a local businessman, run a tire shop or some such thing. And the liquor store, was that what it was? Liquor distributor, right. And it was in Miami, right? Southern Florida. And the Miami Rag, the newspaper, had it in for this guy. They assigned Sally Field a reporter to go get him. She ended up falling in love with him or liking him. And the local prosecutor got in bed with the Miami Herald, and the DOJ, it was a federal case, the DOJ had to send one of their guys down there and basically stomped all over his local prosecutor, say, you're doing malice here. You've got malice. And it took them 2 hours, length of the movie, but Paul Newman ended up winning this thing. But that's the only avenue. Trump can't go in there and open up the libel laws. He would have to go to Congress first. But the point is, I'm getting sidetracked here. You remember that dinner party that I had at my house? I walked out of my own dinner party because I had these two guys that wanted to throw Sarah Palin overboard because the media had destroyed her. And I was aghast. You guys are going to sit there and that's it? If the media destroys our candidate, they're automatically disqualified. Yeah, we got to have somebody who can stand up to them. Well, here it is. This thing has now come back to hit me twice, this whole business about the media. Look, nobody needs to educate me on what people think about the media. But that aspect of this, I'm sure, is a relevant factor in people having this attachment they have to Trump. I've got the Tom Brokaw soundbite. This is the most incredible thing here. Well, no, actual malice is defined as knowing it's false or that the speaker has reckless disregard for the truth. I mean, that's what you would have to prove. Actual malice is defined as knowing it's false. When you print whatever you're printing about, you have to know that it isn't true when you do it. And boy, it's a tough sell. Anyway, I shared with you what Brokaw said on the Today Show today earlier with Matt Lauer, but I want you to hear it. Just to illustrate for you the disconnect. And it has nothing to do with whether you're a conservative mad at Trump or whether you're a Trumpster mad at the establishment or what have you. Tom Brokaw is the establishment. Tom Brokaw epitomized. Tom Brokaw, the face of it. And he's on with other members of the establishment, Matt Lauer and Savannah Guthrie, and they're all wringing their hands over, what's going on in the Republican campaign? Why is there so much anger? And here is what Brokaw said.
President Obama promised change, but he initiated a blue state agenda, healthcare overhaul, same-sex marriage, and met intractable GOP opposition. Congressional Republicans were not interested in negotiation or compromise. They had their own problems with the Tea Party.
It's an NBC special correspondent Tom Brokaw report on why Americans are angry. There's actually a special NBC report on why Americans are angry, and that's it. They couldn't be further wrong if they tried to be. What do you mean Republicans were intractable? Did not everything Obama wanted happen? We've got Obamacare. We've got gay marriage. We've got everything that he was serious about trying to accomplish, he's got. Well, maybe you throw Gitmo out of there, but I mean, that's... What intractable GOP opposition? There wasn't any... This is how far off the beaten path these people in the establishment are. They are so cliched. They're in a time warp. They're back 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's still the angry white male, as far as they're concerned. The angry white male is a bunch of Republicans, and they hate progressives, and they don't understand modernization. They don't understand moving forward. They don't understand compromise. That has nothing to do with why Trump's where he is right now. Or more properly stated, it has nothing to do with why people don't trust Tom Brokaw, Matt Lauer, or any of the other members of the establishment. It isn't about that. And here's Hillary. Oh, speaking of Hillary, two things on Hillary. UK Daily Mail, this is a reprint basically of what's in the New York Times today. Hillary's 5-point plan to beat Trump. Apparently the Hillary campaign's already getting in gear to beat Trump. And Matthew Dowd, do you know who Matthew Dowd is? Well, he's a former George W. Bush administration person. He was like a PR guy or a spokesman here or there. Anyway, he's gone full progressive now. And I think he's on, I think he's an ABC commentator now, and he's pretty much gone left. But he's out there, this New York Times story on what Hillary's going to do to beat Trump, and he's out there actually saying that Hillary is preparing this campaign that's the equivalent of a massive super tanker. And Trump is the Somali pirates. No. And in if I got this right, the Somali pirates are going to come in and take over Hillary's ship. They're going to come in and they're kind of commandeer it, and she's not going to know what hit her. I'll have to double check, but I think that's what his point is. Anyway, Hillary Clinton plans to enlist Bill Clinton and Barack Hussein to attack Trump. And here is her 5-point plan, as published in the New York Times. Number 1, attack Trump's explosive temper and ability to run the country. Number 2, highlight the Republican frontrunner's sexist and bigoted attitudes to turn female votes against him. Number 3, show him as a ruthless businessman who had worked against the interests of working classes. Number 4, keep Hillary out of the fray and enlist allies like Obama and Bill Clinton to criticize on her behalf. Are you kidding me? That's number 4 in the 5-point plan, is that Hillary doesn't play a role in any of this? She's the woman, for crying out loud. Does she bring credibility to these anti-women charges they're going to make against Trump? This sounds like a pretty flimsy attack plan to me. This sounds so flimsy, it sounds like a setup. It sounds like a fake. And number 5 in the Hillary Clinton 5-point plan to beat Trump is goad him to making ever more offensive comments which will alienate voters. This comes amidst shocking news that Trump may, if he wins this thing, turn New York into a potential Republican state. Well, in the Electoral Vote College, New York might go Trump. Because he's more of a New Yorker than she is. Anyway, that sounds like a flimsy plan. Here's Hillary this afternoon in Minneapolis. She's at a coffee shop. Probably didn't pay for anything and no doubt didn't leave a tip. She's meeting with voters, Q&A, and a reporter said, do you think that Donald Trump will be the eventual Republican nominee?
I don't know. I think that's going to be up to the Republicans. I don't have any real insight into their thought process. Obviously, he's done very well. He could be on the path. Maybe somebody else can intervene and rise above that. But I'm going to wait and see who they nominate. And you know what? I think every one of them has views and have made comments that are deeply troubling.
So what you translate that? No matter who the Republicans choose, we're going to keep calling them the same names. They're all racists. They're all sexists. They're all bigots. They're all homophobes. And it doesn't matter who they nominate. That's what we're going to call it. Rush Limbaugh meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day with countless thousands frustrated with me, understandably so, happens every election season. Here's Rich in Saginaw, Michigan. Back to you, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for calling, sir.
Yeah, well, I think I got a solution for you.
For what? A solution for what?
Why the conservatives can't understand why all of us want Trump in there. That's me and being the working guys, like in Michigan. Say, in my factory, everybody's got a Trump sticker on their hard hat. We're ready to go to work for this guy.
Okay, so are you a union member, did you say?
Oh, no. Nope, I'm not. And I'm actually a registered Democrat.
So you're a registered Democrat, so you're a middle-class working guy, blue-collar Democrat, Reagan-era. If this were Reagan-era, you'd be voting Reagan probably and be considered a blue-collar Democrat.
Right.
Okay, but now it's Trump. You're ready to go for Trump. Why instead of, say, Cruz or any other conservative?
Well, kind of. It's kind of like a few callers ago. He said that us guys are low in foreign voters. I mean, just because we didn't march out of somewhere with a Harvard degree or whatever, I guess we're not qualified to vote for the President of the United States. I feel like that's the whole thing. It's like we're not important yet. Here we've been carrying the country on our back with taxes for years and years, and we get no appreciation whatsoever.
I'm telling you,
people
folks,
are always looking past us, always giving something to
look,
this group or that group.
I totally agree with that. In fact, I am of the same frame of mind you are. The question is, so many conservatives are asking, why are you thinking Trump is the answer to that and not, say, Ted Cruz?
Well, I'll tell you, one good thing is Mr. Trump has done things in real life. I mean, we need results. We don't need these. Congress is like a bunch of 3-year-olds playing with Legos. If they put it together and it doesn't work out, what do they care? They just take it apart and start all over again. Mr. Trump has vetted himself in the real world. He's a successful businessman. He's someone that we should be looking to for answers. These guys, they just talk amongst themselves. And at the end of the day, does it matter? No, they still got their big pensions and their health care. While we're out here slugging it out, waiting for some answers that never come.
Is there anything Trump says or has done that bothers you, that alarms you, that gives you any pause?
Well, I don't know. He's kind of like one of the guys on the line. Sometimes, we get in a heated discussion and somebody might say something that's maybe a little over the top or something, but for the most part, I kind of like being the John Wayne America as opposed to we're going to get slapped from every little country that's around the world. I'm tired of being disrespected. Right. I think we're the biggest armed forces in the world. Why would we even take crap from anybody? It's ridiculous.
Well, totally. The question actually is not that. Is that many people are upset with people like you because they don't understand how you can look the other way at some of the things Trump says and some of the way he insults people and makes fun of people with disabilities. This is the criticism I hear. They don't understand why you look past all of that. Okay, I'm sorry, Russ, go ahead. No, go ahead. It's your turn.
Well, I think, the time for political correctness patty cake stuff, we're getting nowhere with this. We really need to, pull up our pants and be Americans again. Make people responsible for the things we do. For the things they do. I'm sorry, there's a lot of handouts going on, and there's a lot of special things that people are getting, while the rest of us stand here and we're ignored. Or even worse than that, we're insulted.
Exactly.
The conservatives and the liberals.
I'm telling you, he is voicing exactly the element of this that the establishment has not yet figured out, and that is the class aspects of this. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. In order to detail this, remember here what he said in this call, and I'm going to share with you some thoughts from both Charles Murray and Angelo Codevilla about this in the monologue section of the next hour, because Rich here is exactly the kind of voter and citizen Murray and Codevilla have analyzed and explained. And it's uncanny, the class aspects of this. It's not that having class divisions is new. It's the way they manifest now versus the way they did not used to manifest just a short time ago, a generation or two ago. Hang tough. Be right back. Okay, so why has this class frustration not manifested versus the Democrats? Some might tell you that it is. 20,000 Democrats just left the party in Massachusetts. Trump's coalition is not nearly all conservative or all Republican. Democrat voter turnout is way, way down compared to 2008. We'll be back. And we're back. We're back to the fastest 3 hours in media, hosted by me, Rush Limbaugh, your guiding light. The telephone number is 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. And you can send an email. I react to them. I use them frequently. lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. Now, before I share with you some of the highlights of the Angelo Codevilla piece, his piece is at thefederalist.com. And Charles Murray's piece for the Wall Street Journal back on February 12th, the Murray piece entitled Trump's America, Why the White Working Class Justifiably Angry. But I had a good question right before the break. Hey, Rush, what I don't understand is why none of this class frustration hasn't manifested against the Democrats. I mean, they're the primary cause of all these problems. Why do the unions never break with the Democrats? Why do blacks never break with the Democrats? What's changed? Why the hell is it manifesting all this class anger? Why is it manifesting against the Republican Party only? I understand the angst versus the Republican Party, but why haven't the Democrats been accountable all these years? That's an interesting question to me. How come there isn't any anger at the Democrat establishment like there is? Well, for the people that are angry at the establishment, they're angry at both. To them, the Democrats and Republicans are no different. So the fallout's the same. But the question, I know what the guy's getting at. Why aren't the Democrats having problems? Why isn't there a Donald Trump out there screwing things up for Hillary? And there is. His name Bernie Sanders. But see, folks, the Democrats learned a lesson. When you're going to have an election, you don't leave things up to voters. What did you say, Rush? I said exactly what I meant to say. The Democrats have learned that when you're going to have an election, you don't leave things up to voters. Bernie Sanders is a placeholder. But when you look at it, to try to answer the question seriously, why isn't there a bunch of fallout, class anger at the Democrats? Well, the Democrats already have succeeded in portraying themselves as for the little guy. The Democrats, in truth, are 99% of the problem. The Democrats are the ones that have created the vast majority of these messes. They are responsible for the cultural rot. But the Republicans get blamed because they're not doing anything to stop them. This really, when you think of it, no matter what angle you want to come at it from, there is a logical answer to it. As far as the Democrats are concerned, their voters think they're great. They're Santa Claus. They're socialists. They're advancing the liberal cause. Everything's fine and dandy. The Republican Party doesn't stand for anything. Conservatives have no home. The Republican Party is not a home for conservatism anymore. The Democrat Party is the home of liberalism, progressivism, socialism, whatever you want to call it. But the Republican Party is just taking up space. All of this is understandable to me. Now, then you add Trump. See, people assume incorrectly that most of Trump's supporters are angry conservatives. And the reason for that is that Trump's running against government, it sounds like. And he's running on the Republican ticket. So for people who are only marginally understanding of conservatism versus liberalism, Trump would be looked at and seen as conservative. But Trump's support base covers every demographic you can think of. He's got support from all ages, and he's winning. You look at the exit polls and entrance polls of all these elections, he's winning every group. He's winning every age group. He's winning religions. He's getting his share of religious voters. He's evangelicals, as you know, men, women, middle age, old age, young age, doesn't matter. But his coalition, and I'm blue in the face of this, is exactly what the Republican Party's always said they want to be. That's exactly what has happened here with Trump's base. So to the extent that conservatives have joined Trump, it's because they don't think the GOP is a home. The GOP is not interested in them. The GOP makes fun of them. The Democrats don't make fun of their voters. Democrats make fun of Republican voters. The Democrats make fun of the rich. The Democrats make fun of the upper class. Publicly, anyway. The Democrats are the biggest offenders of all of these problems. But they have succeeded in convincing people they stand for the little guy. Now, let me get started with some of this stuff. This is Angela Codvilla, who wrote the original piece in the American Spectator on the ruling class that we highlighted here because it was tremendous. He had a piece at the Federalist yesterday. Here's some excerpts. America is now ruled by a uniformly educated class of people that occupies the commanding heights of bureaucracy, the judiciary, education, the media, and of large corporations, and that wields political power through the Democrat Party. Again, America is now ruled by a uniformly educated, meaning the education is the same. They're trained to come out of school to assume all of these positions that they're in. Uniformly educated class of people that occupies commanding heights of bureaucracy, judiciary, education, the media, large corporations, and they wield their power through the Democrat Party. Its control of access to prestige, to power, to privilege and wealth exerts a gravitational pull that has made the Republican Party's elites into its satellites. Now, we're talking about the Washington, New York, Boston corridor here, the Northeast Power Corridor. And his point here is that if you want prestige, if you want power, you want to have perks, privilege, you want to be in line to get rich, then you do what the Democrat power structure says. And to the extent that there are Republican elites, they've been converted into satellites, and they get, depending on their behavior, they're given access to some of this stuff. Mr. Codvilla continues, the fatal feature of this uniformly educated ruling class is its belief that ordinary Americans are a lesser intellectual and social breed. Its increasing self-absorption, its growing contempt for whoever will not bow to them, its dependence for votes on sectors of society whose grievances it stokes. Codvilla is such a brilliant writer. What that means is the Democrat Party has succeeded in creating dependence among groups of people whose grievances it stokes. They've created this grievance culture. They give them the reason to keep grieving and getting ticked off, claiming they're going to be the solution to it, which they never are. All of this has led this ruling class to break the most basic rule of Republican life, and that is deeming its opposition illegitimate. Deeming its opposition illegitimate, which is what's happened to the conservative/Republican political wing in this country. The left has succeeded in delegitimizing it. Without that, there cannot be a republic. We're going to end up with an authoritarian, tyrannical dictatorship or something along those lines when the opposition has been deemed illegitimate. And yet it's the Democrats that run around talking about cooperation and a level playing field and bipartisanship and working together when they have ended any possibility of any of that. They have delegitimized the opposition. And the opposition has sat back and let it happen. The ruling class insists on driving down the throats of its opponents the agendas of each of its constituencies and on injuring people who get in the way. This has spawned a Newtonian, i.e. gravitational reaction, a hunger among what may be called the country class for returning the favor. In other words, all of this has created in average, ordinary, middle-class America a desire to pay these people back for what they've done. Ordinary Americans have endured being insulted by the ruling class's favorite epithets: racist, sexist, and above all, stupid. They've had careers and reputations compromised by just saying the wrong word in front of the wrong person. They have endured dictates from the highest courts in the land that no means yes, that public means private, that everybody's entitled to make up one's meaning of life, and that whoever thinks marriage is exclusively between men and women is a bigot. He's citing Supreme Court decisions here that violate all tenets of common sense. Trying to stop the cycle of political payback with another round of it, that's Trumpism. Code Villa is not a Trumpist. Trying to stop the cycle of political payback with another round of it, while not utterly impossible, is well nigh beyond human capacity. No wonder, then, that millions of Americans lose respect for a ruling class that disrespects them, that they identify with whomever promises some kind of turnabout against that class, and that they care less and less for the integrity of institutions that fail to protect them. But not only do opposing sets of wrongs not make anything right, as I have argued before, trying to stop the cycle of political payback with another round of it, while not utterly impossible, is beyond most human capacity. Neither Obama nor Trump seem to know or care that cycles of reciprocal resentment, of insults and injuries paid back with ever more interest and ever less concern for consequences, are the natural fuel of revolutions, easy to start and soon impossible to stop. He's including Obama here. Obama's done exactly what Trump's doing. Everything Obama's doing is based on resentment. His group of people resent the way the country was founded, resent the way the country grew, resent what the country became, resent how the country became structured, resented this, resented that. And Obama's sole mission has been to pay everybody back, and he's doing it. And Code Villa's right about that. I don't even need to read it from Code Villa to understand it and agree with it. It's exactly what Obama's all about. Giant chip on his shoulder. We've been at countless times. Code Villa's point is that Trump comes along and is encouraging similar payback. And he said it's totally understandable. People want to do it, but it never works. It doesn't lead to reinstitutionalizing the greatness of the country. It just leads to more anger, disappointment, and he thinks eventual revolution. America's founders, steeped in history as few of our contemporaries are, were very aware of how easily factional enmities deliver free people into the hands of emperors. America is already advanced in this vicious cycle. The only possible chance of returning it to republicanism lies in not taking the next turn and in not following one imperial ruler with another. So that's the excerpts from Code Villa's piece in The Federalist, in which he does two things. He makes the case for total understanding of the anger and frustration that exists, and then suggests that following somebody like Obama with something similar but from a different angle is not a solution. Now, many people disagree with that, but that's Code Villa. Now, here's Charles Murray, and his piece, Trump's America, Why the White Working Class is Justifiably Angry. Now, this is a much longer piece, but I will excerpt enough of it to give you the flavor. It's in the Wall Street Journal on February 12th. That means it's behind a paywall. We'll still link to it at rushlimbaugh.com. Maybe it's gone free side by now. We'll find out. If you are dismayed by Trumpism, don't kid yourself that it will fade away if Donald Trump fails to win the Republican nomination. Trumpism is an expression of the legitimate anger many Americans feel about the course their country has taken, and its appearance was predictable. It is the end game of a process that's been going on for 50 years. That is America's divestment of its historic national identity. The eminent political scientist Samuel Huntington wrote in a book, his last book, 2004, Who Are We? Two components of that national identity stand out. One is our Anglo-Protestant heritage, which has inevitably faded in an America that is now home to many cultural and religious traditions. The other component is the very idea of America, something unique to us. Unique to us. As the historian Richard Hofstadter once said, it has been our fate as a nation not to have ideologies, but to rather be one. Americanism is an ideology. So what does this Americanism, this creed, consist of? Its three core values may be summarized as egalitarianism, liberty, and individualism. From these three flow other familiar aspects of the national creed that observers have long identified: equality before the law, equality of opportunity, freedom of speech and association, self-reliance, limited government, free market economics, decentralized and devolved political authority. But that creed has lost its authority, it's lost its substance. What happened? Well, many of the dynamics of the reversal can be found in development across the whole of American society, in the emergence of a new upper class and the emergence of a new lower class, and in the plight of the working class caught in between. The new upper class consists of the people who shape the country's economy, politics, and culture. The new lower class consists of people who've dropped out of some of the most basic institutions of American civic culture: work and marriage. Both of these new classes have repudiated the American creed in practice, whatever lip service they may still pay to it. Trumpism is the voice of a beleaguered working class telling us that it is falling away. Successful Americans stubbornly refused to accept the mantle in the old days. Even Marx and Engels commented on this, and so did Tocqueville. Successful Americans refused to accept the mantle of an upper class, typically presenting themselves to their fellow countrymen as regular guys. Can I illustrate this to show you what he means by this? Now, I grew up in a small town, 25, 30,000 people. And even in that small town, there were classes. There was the rich. There was the rich industrialist in town that owned a concrete company that painted all that paved all the highways and so forth. And then there was this guy and that guy. But they didn't hold themselves out as separate and apart from the rest of the town, and they didn't laud it over the rest of it. They went to the places everybody in town went to eat. They went to the same churches. They were part and parcel of the community, and everybody knew they were the rich guys in town. But nobody hated them for it. They didn't laud it over anybody, and they did not seek to separate themselves from the rest of the town. Oh, yeah, commercial time. Sorry, folks. Don't go away. Be right back. Okay, just one more excerpt from Murray here explaining the differences in the upper class today versus long ago and not that far ago in America, particularly white working class versus current upper class. This is another characteristic of the new upper class. And something new under the American sun is their easy acceptance of being members of an upper class and their condescension toward ordinary Americans. It used to not be the case, not nearly as badly as it is today. Try using redneck in a conversation with your highly educated friends and see if it triggers any of the nervousness that accompanies other ethnic slurs. Refer to flyover country and consider the implications when no one asks, what does that mean? Or I can send you to chat with a friend in Washington who bought a weekend place in West Virginia. He will tell you about the contempt for his new neighbors that he has encountered in the elite precincts of the nation's capital. I told you this story earlier about how he told his buddies he was going to buy a house in West Virginia. They said, why are you going to go to live next to people with no teeth that play the banjo on the front porch? And they were serious. Why are you doing this? Why are you going to live among the schlubs? And Murray's point is that these people in the white working class know exactly all of this. They know they're being condescended to. They know they're being laughed at. They know they're looked down on. They know they're being made fun of, and yet they think of themselves as the backbone of the country. They're the ones that join the military. They're the ones that lose family members in war. They're the ones that are making the country work. They are the backbone. They're being laughed at, mocked, made fun of, and they're tired of it. And they're tired of being blamed for all the problems by the media, and it's that simple. The Charles Murray piece delves into much deeper detail, such as this work and marriage have been central to American civic culture since the founding, and this held true for the white working class into the 60s. Almost all of the adult men were working or looking for work, and almost all of them were married. But then things started to change. For white working class men in their 30s and 40s, the prime decades for working and raising a family, participation in the labor force dropped from 96% to 76% in 2015. Over that same period of time, the portion of these men who were married dropped from 86% to 52%. They may not sound big, but they're stunning changes, manifested themselves throughout communities and neighborhoods. Half the children were born to unmarried women. All the problems that go with growing up without fathers, especially for boys. Drugs have become a major problem in small towns. Anyway, he goes on to detail how all of these demographic and cultural shifts have led to the destruction of the families, of the working middle class that is the backbone of the country. And he affixes blame to this, to the social architects and engineers in Washington, primarily liberal Democrats, who've brought about this destruction and then taken sides with the feminists and the other minorities in these arrangements. They've taken the side of everybody but the white male, essentially. And so the anger out there, in his estimation, is justified, and it's deeper than Trump, and it'll survive Trump. It's going to exist long after this election is over. Anyway, it's a fascinating read, and it's got to be included in part of the mix to anybody trying to explain what seems to be the inexplicable here, although it isn't to me. Okay, cruising back to the phones here, Debbie in Alexandria, Virginia. It's great to have you. I really appreciate your patience, and hi.
Hi, Rush. Dittos from the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you.
And I just want you to know I graduated from the Institute of Conservative Studies long before Patrick, who was in your first hour. And Snerdley was so funny because he said he's never taken a call from a John Kasich supporter yet, so I feel duly special.
You are a John Kasich supporter?
Yeah, and I just wanted to tell you, in our offices in Alexandria, Virginia, I've done thousands of phone calls. We've put out thousands of yard signs, and I would say 60% of the calls we take say John Kasich is the most qualified candidate, but can he beat Clinton? And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not.
Now, wait. Hold it. Damn it. Debbie, I can't understand what you're saying because it sounds like the wind is blowing through your phone.
Okay.
Are you saying that you're
callers and 50? I'm sorry.
Are you taking calls or answering calls or making calls?
We make calls to people.
And when you call them,
what they say on.
When you call them, are you supporting
the most qualified candidate? But can he beat Clinton?
Okay, but wait,
they're not big Trump supporters.
No, Debbie, wait. When are you calling people to push Kasich, or are you calling just to ask them generically who they're for?
What we ask them is, are you going to vote on Super Tuesday in the primary, and if so, have you decided who you're going to vote for?
But are you working a Kasich phone bank?
Yes.
Okay, I need to know.
At his headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia.
Right, understand that. So you're pushing Kasich, and you're getting a lot of support for him, and because people think he can beat Hillary.
No, what they say is 50% of them say, can John beat Clinton? That's why we're voting for Trump. We think only Trump can bury Hillary Clinton.
Oh, so you've got a lot of Kasich supporters.
We've got some Kasich supporters, but the ones that really love him and think he's the most qualified aren't supporting him because they don't think he can beat Clinton.
Yeah, so it's the old electability question. You know, this, Debbie thinks, this is so... Stop and think of that. It's a Kasich phone bank. They're calling, encouraging people to vote Kasich. They find Kasich supporters. but they don't think he can beat anybody. They think he's the best, but so they're siding with Trump because they think Trump's the only one that can beat Hillary. Now, if you go to the polling data that the establishment puts out, Hillary creams Trump. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that Hillary creams everybody except Rubio. But you know, this electoral season is so unlike anything that I can recall. I mean, this is way, way beyond Perot. And again, the big difference is that Trump wants to win this. Perot never did. He had an entirely different agenda. And I'm not criticizing Perot with this. I'm just telling you what he had. He didn't want to win it. He didn't want to be president. Not that he wouldn't have been a good one, but all of this conventional wisdom is based on so many flawed foundations. Like an outsider can't win anything. And like they say, Trump has no prayer. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if whoever the Republican nominee is beats Hillary Clinton in a landslide. I wouldn't be the slightest bit surprised if that happens. Now, the circumstances today are not going to be what they are in November. But, folks, there's no excitement on the Democrat side. Their turnout is even, you've got the Forehead and Donna Brazile openly admitting they're losing sleep over this on CNN. You've got other Democrat operatives and strategists. Now, I know you think, Rush, they're just saying that. They're just setting you up. They're setting us all up. They're trying to make us relax so that we think we got a landslide awaiting us. They do it every election. I understand all that. But I can look at the turnout numbers. Nobody's showing up to vote in these turnouts, in these Democrat primaries. And nobody's showing up. I mean, the total numbers, even all this so-called energy for Bernie, it's not there in the raw numbers. The Democrat turnout in South Carolina was barely half what it was in 2008. And we've got a potential historic first here, first female president, just like Obama, the first African-American president. But back in 2008, there was a Republican villain by the name of George W. Bush and a subsidiary villain called Iraq. And then a third subsidiary villain called the financial crisis, the bailouts. This year, they're all in power. The Democrats are in power, and it's worse than it was in 2008. And they still blame Bush for it, by the way. Then you have this story here in Massachusetts in the Boston Herald. Nearly 20,000 Massachusetts Democrats have fled the party this winter, doing so to join the Republican Party. This according to Boston's or Massachusetts' top elections official. The Secretary of State, William Galvin, said that more than 16,300 Democrats have fled the Democrat Party and become independents. 3,500 more became Republicans so they can vote in the Super Tuesday presidential primary today. And there's no Operation Chaos going on per se. I mean, there's no reason. Why would these people leave the Democrats and move over in Massachusetts to want to vote Republican? What do you think's driving that? You think there's a massive Operation Chaos going on that they haven't announced? You think this is a trick? This is not organized. These people were blindsided by this. The Democrats in Massachusetts are blindsided that this happened. Absolutely. So I'd throw out every bit of conventional wisdom that there is and make up your own mind on this. Because I'm telling you, we're in new territory. Nobody knows what's going to happen here. We still don't have any idea. It's impossible. It's the future, obviously. Look, I have to take a quick time out, folks. Hang on. We've got more right when we get back. Here's Clem in McAllen, Texas. Clem, I really appreciate your waiting.
Thank you. Appreciate you being donating your life to the radio so we can get on and tell what we feel.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I love the Bush family, especially Barbara, and I think G.W. was the best governor Texas has had in a long time, and I think he was one of the best presidents. But the last 7 or 8 years has been terrible. I think a couple of things need to be pointed out about the Republican that's running. And
well, who are you for now, Clem? If you like the Bushes, who are you for now?
Donald Trump. I think he's the only hope this country's got.
Wait a second. Are you voting? You're from Texas and you're not for Cruz?
No, I'm not for Cruz, and you shouldn't be either.
Oh, come on. Are you?
No, I wouldn't vote for Cruz or ex-Governor Perry for dog catcher. And I voted for him before.
What in the world? What do you not like about Cruz?
Ever since his dirty tricks and lies out of Iowa and all the way up, and he's still telling them every day.
What dirty tricks and lies?
I can't believe you asked me. He told lies on Ben Carson to steal some of his votes, delegates.
Oh my God.
You know, a lie is a lie. When you catch one in a lie, he's no good the rest of the way. Finished with him. Never vote for him again. Voted for him before. Never again.
Clem,
and Mr. Perry,
Clem, he didn't steal any Ben Carson votes. He didn't lie about any of that.
Well, I don't know
Marco Rubio did the same thing. Rubio did the exact. That whole thing is traceable to a CNN.
I ain't gonna vote for him for nothing either. Of course, I don't live in Florida.
Okay, what did he lie about? Forget Ben Carson. What's he lying about? Cruz.
Cruz?
Yeah, what's he lying about?
What's he told on Trump?
What do you mean? What's he told on Trump? You mean things he said about Trump?
Yeah, anything he said about Trump.
Everything.
Borderlines on lies or into it, dirty tricks that don't mean anything.
This is Donald Trump language. This is Donald Trump language. It's Donald Trump that's calling him a liar and a vote stealer and all that.
Yeah, he is.
He's not. He's not. He's one of the most honorable guys in politics. Ted Cruz is not a liar.
Never vote for him again. I voted for him last time, but he's not going to fool me anymore. He's a liar. One lie, and I'm finished with anybody. And he's a liar.
Clem, you're just echoing what Trump is saying here. That he's not a nasty guy. He's one of the most honorable people in politics that so far has not been corrupted by it. That Ben Carson thing, that's so... Everybody's acting like babies in that Ben Carson thing. That's chump change what happened there, and it's directly traceable to a CNN news story in the first... I'm out of time here, but this... Clem, he didn't steal no votes, my man. Ben Carson didn't lose any votes. It's one of the biggest slabs of BS in this entire campaign season. That whole thing. See you tomorrow, folks.